I've got to run over town to get a deck belt for the lawnmower. That's I think it's gonna be like a 30-mile trip. I think it's about 14 or 15 miles over to the nearest town. I am waiting for Nathan to get home because he likes to go to town too. And when we're over there, we probably should go grocery shopping as well. So we're out of groceries. And I need to get a caulking gun to seal up the RV again. That needs done very badly. So I need to get after that probably tomorrow. Oh, yeah. So I glued the magnets back into the rotor on the or the flywheel on the mower, and I don't know what I'm doing, which is part of why I do this, just to figure out things. I've learned a lot about things over the last couple days on this mower. It's fun. Expand your knowledge on the thresholds, right? Um, Apparently, the magnets that are in that flywheel are polar. So I'm not sure exactly yet. You would think that one edge of the magnet is north, one edge of the magnet south. Um, and when I had them all out, I started thinking about that, and I was like, well, let me make sure that I've got them flopped this way or that way, you know, in the flywheel. And so I took some magnets and I started touching the ends of them together, and they stuck to each other always. There was no push, there was no same poles that would push away from each other on any of the magnets. I didn't check them all though. I maybe I only checked like 3 of them. There's 6 in total, and I may have grabbed the 3 that are exactly the same, but they must be polarized through the short end of them or something like that. I'm not certain. Anyway, I glued them back in there arbitrarily, thinking that they were, you know, polarized end to end. Apparently they're not. Greg's here getting some petting. He can't handle not being up here when I'm talking to nobody. I gotta talk to Greg. Yes. He also needs to touch my face with his face. Don't you? It's his favorite thing. Okay, maybe it's not. He's got something in his flappy ear hole. Poor guy. Yeah, so that's most likely why the charging system's not working. So that means I gotta take the top of the engine off yet again. Just the cover. And then pop that flywheel out. And I gotta knock those magnets back out of the flywheel. And then check them. Apparently, I watched that dude with the weird teeth. Those are fake teeth, by the way. He was showing that there's 3 and 3, and you got to put them in there the right way. And then I watched a guy who had like a polarized film he put over top of the flywheel when he was done to show that if you put them backwards, the little magnetic fields get all jacked up, and they do. They're all messed up. So that's probably what's wrong with my flywheel now. It's probably what's wrong with the charging system. So if I get that fixed, and then I get my belt replaced, I think I got the mower figured out. And then it's just going to be whatever breaks, over time. Hopefully, I can get through 1 yard first. But yeah, that's learn something there. Got to put the magnets in the flywheel in the right direction. I didn't know. Now I know. I was working with some guys last night on the space vehicle, and we were putting connectors on. And in space work, engineers never let you just snug things. They always go hardcore with torques on everything. And so these little micro connectors that we have little metal pieces of hardware that clip them together. They're like, it's like just like on the back of how printers used to be, where they had those little thumb screws that hold the connectors together. These are metal. You've seen them before, a little flathead on them. Well, there's a torque spec for those, and it's 3 to 5 inch-pounds. So the guys have been snapping them off all the time. And they're like, oh, it's because they're jammed sideways, or they're, this, that, and everything. Well, I know they're over torquing them. These guys just run them down super tight and then just snap them off, and that's why they have to put a torque spec on them. So me and this other cat last night were working. He's a quality dude, and we were able to put like a whole row of these fucking connectors on, 12 of them right in a row. No problems with any of the hardware, torquing them to 3 inch-pounds. And with a 3 inch-pound torque wrench, when it snaps over, it just as soon as you put any leverage on it, thump, it snaps over, and then there's, just thump. You got to feel for that. It's not hard to find that little thump when the torque wrench snaps over. But this guy that was also helping us, he was in and out, and he's kind of got like meat hands, you know what I mean? When he puts things together, he kind of just crams and slams things, and when you're watching him work, you're just like, this guy. Too bad the space vehicle doesn't have wheels on it, because he'd be good at putting the wheels on, but he's not good at finesse work. So these guys, when they break something, you gotta stop. You can't just fix it. You gotta stop. You gotta write up an issue ticket. You gotta submit it to engineering. Engineering has to then disposition the ticket and give you work instructions on how to repair it, to include snapping off one of these little bolts. And these bolts that we had last night were special bolts because the harness showed up with no fucking bolts and hardware. They're bolts, but they're a little tiny. They were supposed to have them, but they didn't, so they had to special order them, and they couldn't special order them, so they came in with whole connector assemblies, and we had to rob them out of these other connector assemblies to put into this connector assembly, and then we were too short, and blah, 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 and yada, yada. So we have just enough bolts to get this job done, and they need to have this job done so they can test the vehicle today. And this guy comes in, and he starts working the other side of these cables. And the night before, he had snapped like 3 of these bolts off. And I'm like, Jesus. They're like, hey. So the more that you snap these bolts off, the more engineering is like, hey, be careful, hey. And they make the instructions tighter and tighter and tighter. And it's not that the instructions are bad. It's that you got people that don't have finesse. So I'm on the inside of the vehicle with these connectors right at my face level. And these 2 guys are on the outside, like, lining things up. What do you want? Look at this guy. He's back. Oh, got to be back up here. Okay. And I watched this guy grab the torque wrench, and he tightens this nut. And I watched the torque wrench snap over as soon as he put any leverage on it. And then he turned it again. And I was like, ooh, I mean, I'm talking full half turns on a seated bolt. That's like, they're maybe 1/8 of an inch in diameter, not even. Maybe they're just like a little over a 16th. A full extra twist on this bolt. And then he reaches for another throw, and I said, whoop. I said, I think it's good, man. And he's like, well, it hasn't snapped over yet. I was like, I think it has. I didn't feel it. And I'm like, well, it's because it's very soft right at the very beginning of your torque. So I knew that there was a bolt over torqued already because I watched him put like an extra half turn on this fucking thing. I was like, oh, what I suspected was going on is going on. So I showed him the torque wrench, and I showed how it thumps over real light at the very beginning of the torque. And he's like, oh, okay. So he goes to torque the next one, and he does it again. I'm like, hey, dude, stop. Let me show you. And I like put his hand on the torque wrench with my hand, and I'm like, right here, dude. Thump, thump, thump. That's 3 inch-pounds, man. It ain't shit. You could like do it with your fingers like this on a screwdriver blade. Oh, okay. I got it now. I'm like, all right, dude, be careful. Because I'm working the inside of the edge of the connector. He's working the outside. It's complicated. So I think I got him tuned up, and I'm helping the guy on the other side. So I'm working with 2 guys. These 2 guys are on the outside. I'm on the inside working the inside edges of these connectors, and they're on the outside. So I'm over here helping this guy that knows what he's doing, and he's fine. So I jump over here to help him do an inside connector, and I look over, and this cat does it again, and he snaps a bolt off. Like, he puts like 3 extra turns on this thing and snaps, and now the bolt's just spinning in the hole. I can hear it rattling. Jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. And he's like, oh, I think it's okay. And I was like, bro, you just snapped that bolt off in the connector. No, it's still in there. I was like, yeah, it's held in with an E-clip on the inside of the connector. So we got to take this whole connector apart, pull the E-clip out of it, pull the hardware out of it, find a hard piece of hardware, which we don't even have officially. We've got a little cup with extra random shit in it. So I find an extra bolt, put the extra bolt back in, tighten it down. And the other guy that's not working on the outside doesn't know why this guy's snapping shit off. He kind of looks at me like, what's up? And I was like, bro, he's he's over torquing these things, and he's like, well, you just showed him how to do it. Oh, yeah, I did, you know, but since we had just put that hardware in those connectors, I didn't write up an issue ticket on it. We just replaced it like we had done the first time. But the day shift guys that have engineers floating all over them all day long, they're like snapping these bolts off, and they keep doing it over and over and over again. And I'm just like, they just create so much work for themselves. It's just it's a nightmare. Um, anyway, that's what's up. But I get paid by the hour. But I was just thinking about that today, and I was like, this guy. And then I put magnets in a flywheel backwards. You don't know what you're doing. But if you don't know what you're doing, you probably shouldn't work on space vehicles. But I guess lawnmowers is okay. I don't know. Good dude, but just a little bit of a dum dum. Yeah, that's what's up.